Hello everyone to this video. I made this video with the goal to help fellow Mesmer players out there improve and to share the knowledge I have. I will cover all the weapon and utility skills that the current Mesmer build has available, and what you can do with them. So let's get right into it. So the sword auto attack does decent damage and has a boon strip on the third auto attack. The boon strip of the auto attack is only really useful against warriors that cast their healing signet to get the resistance, because if you are able to strip that, they most likely do not have berserker stance up, and you just drop them of their remaining resistance. Sometimes it's hard to strip the resistance because there will be random boon procs all over the place from traits. So since the boon strip isn't always consistent and the auto attack channel takes quite a while, the boon strip part of the auto attack has a rather niche use. So there's not much to say about the sword 2. Like, it's a very good evade. One thing I want to mention is though that against NGs and in general classes that stack mutilation, you have to be very careful, since it is a multi-hit channel and you will eat a lot of damage. So about sword 3. Besides it spawning a clone, there are a lot of tricks and jukes you can perform with this skill. It is very useful and should not be spammed only to get the clone most of the time in duels and in general. You can juke, for example, by spawning the clone uphill, then run down, enemy follows, and then port back up, for example. And it also immobilizes on porting, which is useful, for example, to prevent your opponent from dodging your shield 4, or generally pin them down. So there's a lot about this one. What a lot of players don't know is that you can dodge the spawn of the phantasm. And in my opinion, you should always try to dodge the spawn of the phantasm rather than dodging the shatter afterwards. The actual spawn of the phantasm happens at the end of the block animation. If you have evade frames, at that point of time, this phantasm will not spawn. There are a few different options to avoid the spawn of the phantasm. First, as I've already shown, you can simply dodge the spawn of the phantasm. Second, some classes have access to invuln frames. They can use those too. And third, which is the easiest method, you can simply LOS the Mesmer. Phantasm also will not spawn if you're blinded. So the spawn of the phantasm can be avoided, for example by a thief using Shadow Shot that has an unblockable blind. Now as a Mesmer there still is some counterplay to your opponent trying to dodge your shield 4, namely jumping during the cast of shield 4 will effectively prolong the spawn of your phantasm. So you start casting the shield and about 3/4 into the animation you jump, and even if the cast finishes while you're in mid-air, the phantasm will not spawn until you've reached the ground again. However, to successfully spawn the phantasm you have to wait for a short period of time after landing. If you activate the skill in that period of time before the phantasm has spawned, it will count as interrupted and the phantasm won't spawn. The same goes for if you get interrupted. And since you are not allowed to cast something in that time frame, it makes you vulnerable. So if you know your opponent is going to try and dodge your phantasm, you can also allow skill retargeting, so you will still be able to spawn the phantasm on something else. Shield 5 is a very strong interrupt skill since it has no limit on how many targets it can hit. So placing that on a down body is always a good idea to prevent presses or stomps. It is also key to a lot of setups, the most important one being the Moa setup. Do not use this skill only for the sake of stunning someone, always try to get some follow up at least. On the staff you have your ranged auto attack and your only access to fury on this build. Damage wise the auto attack is pretty bad, but it's good enough to constantly tag a target and put some conditions on them. So the next skill is really important. It's one of the reasons Mesmer has such good mobility, aside from Blink and Portal, and there are a lot of ways to use this skill to get around the map. In my opinion, every Mesmer should know this and every Mesmer should be able to phase retreat forward, since it is really useful. All in all, the staff 3 doesn't do a lot of damage, because the projectile barely ever hits. It does decent damage when it hits, and even more so if it crits, in which case it can crit for up to 3k. Generally it gets avoided by accident by just moving around. Staff 3 is mostly useful though because it has a low cooldown phantasm spawn that gets further reduced by persistence of memory and alacrity. Staff 4 gives you 5 seconds of chaos armor. Chaos armor is very useful since it can block protection on you, and that can save your ass sometimes. Therefore this skill should not be used just off cooldown, but rather in clutch situations while trying to survive. You can also get chaos armor by comboing your staff 2 into, for example, your staff 5 and shield 5. You should always go for that, but don't just use your chaos storm only for the combo. Chaos Storm is a really strong skill. It is always really good if you manage to place a Chaos Storm on top of a downed body, since it will randomly proc dazes for up to 5 targets, and it also has a chance to poison. It can also be useful to support your allies because it will proc Aegis for up to 5 targets, and also retaliation and swiftness. So, starting with the healing skill. I would recommend the healing well instead of Ether Feast, simply because of the superior Conti Cleanse and team utility. You should always try to place your healing well somewhere where your allies can reach it too, so you get max value out of it. You can also use the light field to combo light aura, which gives you retaliation, which is nice but not tremendously useful. I don't really know what I should say about Blink. It's great for mobility, it's a stun break, it has 1.2k range, so yeah. Signet of Illusions is obviously useful because it resets all your shatter skills. You should always consider using your remaining shatter skills while casting it, since you will have them back up anyway. The only reason not to do this is if you wanna keep up your illusions. You do have to watch out for interrupts though, since it is a 1 second cast, and you can get easily interrupted since it is highly telegraphed. Portal obviously is a very important skill in this, and is part of what makes Mesmer so valuable. There are really a lot of ways to influence the macro game with the portal. In general, what I'd say is you should always try to get maximum value out of your portal. That means making rotations for otherwise slow team members, setting up favorable matchups for your team, decapping and preventing decaps, saving a dying ally, and many more. Last but not least, we have the Moa. I don't think I have to tell you guys how strong Moa is and how good it is in 1v1s. So basically you just want to make sure with the setup I've already shown that it actually hits. You want to use it to focus down single targets or win a certain 1v1, and you should always try to use it with continuous split. Also on another note, always shatter with at least 2 illusions up to always get the most out of illusionary reversion and Chrono Phantasma. So that's that. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I would highly appreciate it if you would leave some constructive feedback about how this affected you and if it helped you at all, or if it didn't. I'm sorry about the mic quality, it's pretty horrible, but I sadly don't have anything better. So this will have to work. I just hope this video will help anyone, and I'd be glad if it would. So, I guess that's all I have to say for now. See you all next time.